So Dorian, I have a question for you. It's extremely important. You know, are there assets that investors are purchasing that they want to fight with the lenders about? Are they giving you inquiries about that? Like, hey, I know that there's I presume it'd be a distressed investor, and they're trying to get into the Midtown office space, and like, I have a building for $30 million. A skyscraper has $15 million on it. What type of searches are they making you run? What are they making you do in determining, how instructive is title to determining the value of the guarantor, the value of the asset, the value of the lien? How instructive is that search? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah,
it's a very important question.
The title is really understanding any additional burden that's on the value itself, right? So
the value of the asset.
The value of the asset, because you need to know what is in the path or in the way of the path to actually close your transaction. So after you've gotten through the underwriting and the business plan, and this is what I can do with this distressed asset, because look, we work with a lot of developers, and they look at this distressed market as an opportunity to reduce their land bases, right? To get a piece of property for a much lower price, or the price of the buildable square feet for a much lower price than they would have before.
So it's opportunistic, looking at opportunity.
It's a very as developers opportunistic looking.
So inquiries have increased in that opportunistic.
Yes, so inquiries have increased, but
Why is it hard to transact? Right, the inquiry you had, and I want to get to the bottom of it. You have 100 inquiries in October. You have 200 inquiries in April of 2024. October 2023, it's 100. I'm using arbitrary timelines, but April, right? So last quarter 2023, second quarter 2024, you have 200 inquiries. And how many of those, what percentage of those inquiries are going in a contract and actually transacting?
Yeah, right now, a very small percentage.
And why? What are the hurdles? I want to know what the hurdles are.
Because at some point you make a determination that whatever is in the way of the path to close, or whatever you unveil from doing additional searches, in our case pertaining to title, so i.e. mechanics liens that are in the millions of dollars, and you figure out that in order to cure it, it's not even the contractor. You got to figure out if there's the subcontractor that hasn't been paid that has filed the mechanics lien, and there's a whole kind of picture that you have to unravel that's generally not presented when they're looking at it from a very top view of, all right, this building is $50 million when it was $70 million before, but now, oh, by the way, there's about $2-3 million worth of mechanics liens that we need to solve. So we feel, or if I were to guess on why it doesn't go into contracts, because they realize at some point that it's just too much. There's too much at that point in time, given what they need to pay for it in order for it to make sense.
So in that, do you advise? I always wanted to ask this question actually to the title guy. Do you advise on these things, or do you just I hate to believe that you just do this.
No.
Here you go. What do you do?
We can advise on what you can do to fix whatever is in the way. So we call it curative measure, right? So there's a list of 10 items that are problems, whether it could be violations, permits that were not closed. A number of things between all the different city agencies that are out there.
What takes most creativity to resolve? Is it DOB violations? Is it easements? Is it a deed that was stolen? Is it a mechanic? Where do you sell yourself on saying this is what we do great, this is what we do best, and what is the creativity that it takes now to transact in this market?
Yeah, in general, right, where we come into play is things like covenants and restrictions. How do you get around
city restrictions?
Restrictions that could potentially affect what you can actually do with a piece of property, right? Or you come off with nuance, especially in Manhattan, a city as old as it is, where there could be a piece of property that you actually don't know who owns it, right? It's a gap in between four buildings. It's called a gore strip, right? How do you figure out, is there an opportunity for a developer to take that and, action acquired title, take it, add it to their FAR, and it makes a big difference, right? In terms of how they underwrite in general. That's why a lot of developers like to work with us, because we'll run the searches, we'll translate it. Some of these are handwritten documents from the 1900s, and we'll translate it, give or transcribe it. We'll give an opinion, and then we can advise on whether or not it's actually a big problem.
Or it's actionable, right?
But
yeah, sorry, let you finish.
But another one of your questions is like, and what are we doing now?
Right.
It's not so much that the curative measures in our advisory has always been there. It's just that now it's for those who are astute and actually reaching out to a title company. I'm going to quote an attorney, and they said it's like the best $1,500, $2,000 you could spend from the perspective of actually just running a title search, so that you have an idea of how distressed it is from the points of liens and judgments and violations and all that, right? We can talk you through how to get around some of it. And in some cases, we can actually find a curative measure from the title side of it, where we can either accept it from policies. There's a lot of nuance that's associated with that, right? We have 5 attorneys in-house that just work on that in its entirety, right? Here's a set of research. I liken it always to, it's a 10,000 piece puzzle. We've retrieved 9,500 pieces, and there's 500 pieces missing. And you either have to live with the risk or find a way to get an answer question or find a piece itself to fill the puzzle in. And it becomes a risk mitigation aspect, which is real estate in its whole, right, in general. But from a title perspective, you're looking at that puzzle and saying, all right, you could live with this. We have 9,700 pieces. We could, close. Or no, we actually need to solve this part of it because it's of this 300 missing pieces. It's all in one section, and it's you can't really piece it together, right? So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It does.
You know what though? Let's get to the brass tacks of why this is the discussion. Okay, when we talk about interest rates rising, we're talking about litigation. We're talking about we're talking about laws that are changing. We're talking about title risk. What is it that we're really talking about is what's the value of this reset lens of our reality when it comes to valuations of office and retail, the existential, the multifamily around the country, interest rates rising. What is the value so that we can start transacting again? And that's I'd like to just turn to Eric. How are you determining with all this variability? I know I am. I'm trying to get everyone to look at the lens of reality. This is what the capital markets and this is the cost. You're the one trying to get down to the transaction and the value of these assets. How are you going about it when there's all this variability today?
Yeah, I'm guessing you're getting calls. I need a BOV. Well, how are you doing a broker opinion of value on an office building?
People always ask, are you busy? And what they really mean is, are you closing deals and making money?
Right. And you're like, no.
And I always answer, I go, I'm always busy, but I'm not always making money. We're always busy. We're always doing BOVs. We're always doing research. We're always doing market reports.
So increase
in 2023, we did BOVs. BOV stands for broker opinion of value. It's an appraisal without an appraiser, right? We think our appraisals, our BOVs are more accurate than appraisals.
And I'll tell you the legal part of that, but continue.
Because we're looking forward.
So right? We're
predicting the future.
Can I tell you the difference?
Sure.
So in bankruptcy and in-court restructuring, let's go to in-court restructuring real quick. In-court restructuring from a bankruptcy practitioners and those that want to understand what value actually means in bankruptcy, a broker price opinion talks and discusses the value of the property as someone would buy it. That would mean how much will I pay for this cup? Then the appraisal says, what is the value, the intrinsic value of this cup? And you're saying, well, isn't this like the chicken or the egg? No, because in bankruptcy, the asset itself has to be valued on its own, okay? Is there a tenant? Is there a paying mortgage? Who is the investor? So on and so forth. What location it's in. Then there's the broker price opinion, which is what someone is willing to pay for it. So this building could be made out of 24 karat gold, and by itself it could be worth $1 gajillion. But what someone is willing to pay for it in a market that surrounds it, say, think of, and I'll give you an example, a very clear example, Nevada, Las Vegas, before it was Vegas, the Wynn was placed there. The Wynn in itself, the building, is going to be intrinsically very, very valuable. But the broker price opinion may come back and say, well, there's really nothing around it. There's no electricity, there's no water, there's nothing. Right. It's a very crazy example, but I wanted the people to understand that are watching what that actually means. What does it mean? What is a broker price opinion? And a broker price opinion basically says what someone is willing to pay for that building. Well, if that building is in the middle of Nevada, Las Vegas, before it was Vegas, not a lot of people, or the broker price opinion will be much smaller, arguably, than the win itself, which is very, very valuable, right? That everything is working in there's top of the line, so on and so forth. I wanted to clear that up, but continue. You were talking about your inquiries.
Everybody is, if you're a banker, you want to know what the value of the property is to make a good loan or to value your existing loan.
Right.
If you're an investor like John Gray, you want to know what the value is so you don't overpay. If you're a retailer, you want to know what rent to pay. You don't want to overpay and suffer compared to your competitors.